the East Cocalico Township Supervisor meeting for August 1st to order. Will everybody please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please silence your cell phones. This meeting was planned and advertised and interviewed last year to be a morning meeting. Thank you. First order of business, minutes from our last meeting, Thursday, July 18th. Any additions to corrections?
Mr. Chair, can I just interject? There was an executive session that was held on July 18th, 2019 from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. to discuss a personal matter with the Highway Department. This issue will be discussed later in the agenda. No action was taken at the time of the meeting.
Okay.
And that had been publicly announced at the previous meeting that executive session was going to be held.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I forgot about that. Okay. Any additions, corrections to the minutes for the last meeting?
I'll make a motion that we accept as presented.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Chief.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't normally have a report at this meeting, but I do have some situations which I'd like to discuss, bring to the attention of the board. On Tuesday of last week, there was a regional leaders meeting held at West Cocalico Township. I attended that meeting, and during that meeting, I brought up a situation, and I'd like to speak about that now. It was regarding our school resource officer. I'll give you a little backstory on that. A few weeks prior, a former police officer, a former sergeant in the department, who has since retired, saw Officer Fisher, our SRO, at a local grocery store, where they spoke for quite a time. During that time, Mr. Burns brought up to Eric, Officer Fisher, that just get ready for when the money dries up, it'll go away. Officer Fisher approached me, and he was obviously upset. This was a few days later. He was asking if all his hard work and his efforts are going to go away. I indicated I had no idea or hear anything. I did not hear anything to say this would occur when the grant ran. In embarrassment, I had to call Dr. Musser, the superintendent of the Cocalico High School, the school district, and ask her if the school resource officer program was going to go away. She indicated that that's not how they do business, that's not how she does business, and that if they get a grant and they hire someone, that they're right up front with that person and the district, saying if that grant goes away, that they will try and find another position, but they're right up front saying if the money goes away, then that position will probably go away. I thanked Dr. Musser. She said she was going to be attending the regional leaders meeting. At the regional leaders meeting, I brought this fact up, and I used the words a former West Cocalico supervisor, which Mr. Burns was. I did this for a reason, and I might explain in private what that reason was, but from the look on the supervisors and other members of West Cocalico Township, I knew that that was not why they decided not to fund the SRO. I could tell from their reaction. I was worried that they were under the impression that this was going to go away. The fact that they didn't fund the SRO is a completely separate matter. I proceeded to ask during that meeting if they would reconsider and they would decide to try to fund the school resource officer, and if they would discuss it, I would be happy to answer any questions. That occurred that Tuesday. This past Monday, I was at the Denver Borough meeting, which was a very good meeting. And I stepped outside to speak to a local fire chief, and Mr. Mitchell showed up in the parking lot and was outside, didn't enter the meeting, and then I later learned from a council member that Mr. Mitchell was there to talk about me. the council member described it as kind of creepy. He used the word creepy, that candidate for East Cocalico Supervisor is hanging around the parking lot after a Denver borough meeting. And I was asked by this council member, if I have any idea what's going on. And I said, well, I spoke to West Cocalico Supervisor and explained myself, and I think the relationship is solid there. But I was disturbed by the fact that this occurred, and that other things were talked about in regards to East Cocalico Township after a Denver borough meeting, when they include me. I take my job very serious, I take my reputation very serious, and it's just unfortunate, but people can say what they would like to about me. So there's a couple things I need to bring to light to the Board of Supervisors in regards to another incident or action that occurred. So I'm going to bring it to light because I feel ethically I need to do so, and I will. So Mr. Mitchell, I have a question for you. Can I bring your attention to May 20th, 2019? It was a Monday, the day prior to the primary election.
Okay.
Did you present yourself to the East Cocalico Township Police Department, speak to Officer Kreischer, and have Officer Kreischer call me back to the station?
Yes, I asked him if you were in the building. He said you stepped out for a few minutes, and I said I would wait.
So I returned and we met in the parking lot right in front of the police department.
Yes, we spoke for probably 20 minutes or so.
Mr. Mitchell, you had an email, a printout of an email that you showed me, and that email was from effort of Mayor Ralph Moen to West Cocalico Supervisor Stoner. And you showed me the email, and that email indicated that you did not speak to Mr. Moen, you did not speak to, Mayor Moen, you did not speak to the Effort Borough Council President or the Chief of Police, William Harvey. Do you recall that email that you showed me?
Absolutely.
Then you asked me to contact Chief Harvey to confirm that information, that you had not spoken to either of those individuals. Is that correct?
Well, at that time, we were about 3 months into that so-called rumor, sir, and
What rumor?
a rumor that I had been out of effort started by somebody possibly in this room.
Did I start that rumor?
No, not to the best of my.
So, Mr. Mitchell, you understand the issue where you're asking a chief of police that needs to remain politically neutral to do anything like this?
Well, I think further discussion needs to be made on this. There's some other facts involved. A local businessman had contacted me that one or possibly two of the officers on this force were out spreading that rumor. And it's troubling to me.
But you came to me and asked me to call another chief of police that I have a professional relationship and that I would never do, and I denied that I was going to do it. I said I would meet him sometime and possibly talk to him about it.
That's
but I told you that I would not speak to him that day, the day before the primary election, correct?
You said that.
I did not contact anyone. I did not take possession of the email. And as the chief of police, I must remain neutral in political matters, and I cannot use my office to further the political aspirations of any individual. Mr. Mitchell, you even brought up the fact that you wanted me to contact Chief Harvey that day because you heard a rumor of a write-in candidate who you named to me as Ralph Buckles. And I believe this was to further prove, or this further proves, that you were attempting to use my name, my office, my department, and my standing in the community to further your political career. Is that correct?
I think you're missing part of the conversation.
So, Mr. Mitchell, you asked me to use my professional relationship with another police chief to confirm facts that you plan to use the next day in your political campaign. This is wrong and completely, totally unethical.
I wouldn't look at it that way, sir.
I look at it that way.
Okay.
You insisted several times, and you asked me to call the officials in the municipality to use in your campaign. I must remain politically neutral. You will never see a political sign in my yard. No one will ever know how I vote when I enter a polling place. I take my ethics and my professionalism very seriously. You presented yourself and spoke to members of Denver Borough Council, correct?
When are you talking about now?
This past Monday.
I showed up late when the meeting ended, as you saw.
Did you speak about me and my actions?
No, sir.
So a member of Denver Borough Council that I spoke to later isn't telling the truth.
Well, where is he?
I have no idea where he is.
I would be happy to discuss that with you and whoever this is.
Why didn't you discuss that with me before you showed up at Denver Borough? Our partner, who has signed on with us, has stuck by us, has supported our police department forever. Why won't you come and talk to me before you go to Denver Borough and disparage me?
Well, I wouldn't look at it that way, sir.
It's an unfortunate situation that I need to bring this to light. I don't want to be political. I have remained apolitical throughout my entire career. I don't support candidates, whether they might be my boss or not. And I just needed to bring this to light in an open public meeting. I will be willing to answer any questions if anyone feels that I've done anything improper.
I have no questions. I have no questions.
In light of transparency, Chief, could you address the fact that there was an officer of a local business spreading rumors
Where is he?
about myself?
Where is he? I would be happy to discuss it with him and you in private.
Well, we did that day.
The officer wasn't there.
That's correct. And you kind of brushed it off as, no, things like that happen. And obviously it was a concern of mine when, rumors were spread that nobody would just make a phone call to EFRA to confirm or deny it. And, from my perspective, sir, I was disappointed that you would allow that and allow officers of the force to keep spreading such nonsense when there was no factual basis to it. One phone call, Chief, and you said multiple times.
There were 3 people named in that email. There are many, many people in other municipalities and in Ephrata Borough that you could have spoken to that email didn't cover. I'm not risking my professional relationship with a fellow chief that I deal with, sometimes in life and death situations, or any of his members of his department, by going to them and asking such a silly question.
Okay. Well, you can consider it silly, but, when this kind of stuff goes through the community with no basis whatsoever, I find it troubling.
I find it troubling that someone would go to a municipality that we're partners with after a meeting and talk about me behind my back.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that that's the way things ever played out, sir.
Bye.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Zoning officer, Tony.
Yes, good morning, everybody. As usual, I'll give a full report at the next supervisor meeting.
You're very busy with new homes right now.
Yeah, to that, yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Our office normally handles 20 to 30 permits a month. We're up near 50 and 60 a month now. New home sales are going through the roof, and we're keeping up, but it's a challenge. We're busy. And that's just on the residential end. In the commercial end, obviously, you see what's happening in the township. Large buffet and alignment is going full steam ahead. The numbers first, people are ready to break ground. That'll happen shortly. And we've got a few other items in the works that I'm not able to talk about at this moment.
Okay.
Let me just say thanks, Tony, for that liaison list and everything we pulled together there. I actually used that, and I'm forwarding a copy of that over to Dr. Musser at the school district. She had asked during the leaders meeting, I gave them a little report on everything that was going on, and that was extremely helpful by letting them know how many projects were going on. And I thought it was very positive that the reaction I got was, in my impression, a lot of jaws kind of hit the ground in a positive way. So, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Okay. Any questions of the zoning officer? Thank you. Roadmaster, what? Go
I
ahead.
have no questions for him, but I did want to say to Chief Kepley, I just want to say thank you for what you and the department does for our community. I do appreciate that. I live in the township. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Troy. Roadmaster, Chris.
Morning.
Morning.
On the MS4 side, we sealed the shop floor drains. That was one of the things that was brought up in the report when PennDOT was through. We also completed the first phase of inlet inspections. We had budgeted to have a vacuum truck come in and basically vacuum out the storm boxes that we had a lot of debris in. After this first batch of inspections, we basically have a dozen storm boxes. We were going to rent this truck for 5 days. I don't think we'll need to rent the truck for an entire 5 days. It'll be good to do one day, see how long it takes us to do those dozen inlets, and it gives us an idea of how to proceed as we delve farther into the next coming years with vacuuming the drains out. I had plaster equipment and Groff tractors do work on both the wheel loader and the backhoe. The John Deere wheel loader had cylinders leaking, and the backhoe actually threw a hydraulic line up underneath the engine. So we had that taken care of. The road crew, we whacked around all the guide rails in the township where the mower can't get at. We completed the last stormwater cross pipe on Buzzard Road. Now we have swale work, bank restoration, grass to plant, and at that point, we'll be finished with Buzzard Road and Indiandale Road. The grant was extended until the end of September. We're going to try and get what we have to do out there done in the next week and a half to move on to our next project. Martin's Paving was in earlier in June. They did their 1/4-inch chip seal and fog seal application to Stonecrest Court, the Hickory Ridge Development, and Connie and Frederick in the Brookview Development. The results are awesome. I had Tom Welkman from PennDOT out to look at those roads. He made the comment that those roads actually look as good as some of the paved roads that he's inspected so far this year. He is hoping that with his findings and the studies that PennDOT are doing this year, that 1/4-inch will be a standalone stone next year and will be liquid fuels applicable. So we could basically do this again, and then liquid fuels would cover this. At this point, they don't. New Enterprise is also in the township now. They paved Indiandale and Buzzard, and they're in the process now of paving Quail Hollow. They're hoping by the end of this week they're done. Alpha Space Control, I don't know if you noticed, some of your turn arrows and railroad crossings and that stuff has been painted. So they're in doing those turn arrows, stop bars, and all the hand painting stuff during the night when there's less traffic. I'm expecting probably at the end of this week or next week, we'll see the long line truck, which will be basically doing the white lines and the double yellows. We took care of that water problem that arose on Holtzman Road on the back side. We had that icing issue over the winter where I basically had to get the ice off the road, I had to basically take the people's yard and scrape their yards down, which would get the water off the road. Well, with all the heavy rains this spring and summer, that basically eroded their yards away. We were up there, we basically dug out along the road and we blacktopped the swale in. I told the residents, the swale will work. A normal rainfall, the swale will work. But these rains that we have been getting recently, we don't have a system out there that's going to be able to maintain those types of rainfalls. I don't think anybody does. So the residents know that if we get a monsoon like what we've been getting at times, there's not much that can be done. Just let us know if there's an issue. We had a sinkhole pop up on Chestnut Hill Road. Again, we went out there, we excavated, we found where the hole was, and basically the hole just dried up as we were digging. It's right at the lowest area of the road, and there was a pipe there. I'm just guessing that it was that much water that it pressed the road and eventually found a little hole and created the void. We had flowable fill, we filled that up, patched it up, and it's good to go. We spent quite a few hours cleaning up from the storms. Almost all of these heavy rains we're getting, bringing trees down, plugging drains, plugging pipes. So we wasted quite a few hours chasing after those after the events. We also have been working on our signs. For some reason, it seems like this last month is run over stop signs. The one on Wabash got hit probably twice in the last month. And if you follow the tire tracks, it's a tractor trailer turning off of South Reamstown Road onto Wabash. And both of those roads are posted no trucks. Now I understand there is a dairy farm there, which I don't think he's the one that's doing it.
I have a picture on my phone from my brother who lives in the old Royer building. Tractor trailer truck, looked like a reefer unit coming down Glenwood and turning on Wabash.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to start trying to, I mean, the police officer's got to be right there at the right time. I mean, that's hard for them to do. I don't know any other way to do it unless you put cameras up everywhere. But the truckers are just running them up.
Maybe you can get my brother to take pictures.
I don't know if that's enforceable by the law. I don't know. That's
Probably not.
the mower. We had issues again with the mower. So far this year, the starters went out and the clutches went out. That is the 5th clutch we have installed in this mower. I did a little study on the mower. The mower is a 2002 mower, so it's 17 years old. The mower that was purchased is basically an entry-level mower. It has 3,400 hours on it. Since the township has this mower, I can recall that the front spindle has been broken twice, the hydraulic tank has been welded 3 times, and the clutch has been replaced 5 times. I have a letter here from the mechanic stating about this being an entry-level mower. If there would have been any upgrades made to this mower at the initial purchase, it probably would have taken the dry clutch system out of the mower. This dry clutch should be run during 700 to 800 RPMs. Using the mower, that RPM is at 2,000 to 2,200. We're mowing along the road. We have trees, we have stop signs, we have mailboxes, fence posts, guide rail. You can't shut that mower down prior to getting there, or otherwise you won't have it mowed. So basically, you mow till you get to that object and you push the clutch pedal in, which that is what is wearing the clutch down. Speaking to the salesman, the tractor's 17 years old. It would be a waste of money to try and upgrade this tractor in their eyes, and also the mechanic's eyes. I mean, I gave you a list of the things that have happened to this tractor already. Also at the leaders meeting, Mr. Mitchell confronted me that he would like to take a look at the tractor, and then he said himself and Brian Wise. I told Mr. Mitchell that's not my call. I run the tractor belongs to the township. You 3 sitting up front are the ones that run the township with the manager. I told Mr. Mitchell I would bring this back to Mr. Russell, and that's a discussion amongst you on what you want to do. Having what I gave you with the recommendation from the mechanic, also if you want to talk to the salesman for both New Holland tractors and Stevenson equipment, they're the ones that basically we look to for supply. They'll explain the same thing to you that I just did. That tractor was an entry-level tractor. There should have been upgrades made at the purchase of it while it was being built, and it would have become a more sturdy tractor for what it's supposed to do. I recommend that we stay the course. I mean, Mr. Carrasco wanted a 5-year spreadsheet of my equipment
Yeah, the end of
on,
life,
on when I'm looking at repairing it, replacing it, whatever.
right, the end of life spreadsheet.
I did have this tractor scheduled for this coming budget year to be replaced. I think we stay the course and we budget this tractor and we replace it for the lifespan. And here again, just to add to this, Mr. Mitchell did stop at the Denver Borough meeting, as the chief said. He made contact with Councilman Matt Stover after that meeting also to discuss the highway mower, to which Matt left me know that he told Mr. Mitchell that highway mower is not adequate for what we are trying to do. I mean, this is not the first time that Mr. Mitchell has talked to Matt on subjects dealing with East Cocalico Township. That's all I have.
I think one other thing, one, it was talked about was in the 4-year budget projections that you're going to do a tractor replacement. 2, it's an open cab tractor. We have our guys mowing when it's sunny outside. They should be mowing when it's raining. And we should be having guys working on pipes and pavement when it's sunny. The new tractor will be enclosed so that you can actually do inclement weather mowing, which is the time when these guys should actually be mowing versus mowing when it's a nice sunny day. So when we're now down one person, you got a 4-person crew. We have to be much more efficient with our employees and how we utilize their time. And that includes having the proper equipment so that they can get back maximum utilization of their effort and their hours. And what the equipment that is budgeted for would be an enclosed cab. So even beyond the maintenance thing, and the fact that this is end of life, it was a long piece of equipment right from the start. It has a statement from the mechanic and from the dealers that it does not work. There's also a very practical reason to make a change because it would better improve our workflow. And so it was my recommendation that to our roadmaster that he would continue to show that in the budget too. So that's a recommendation coming from both the manager and the roadmaster that this piece of equipment needs to be replaced.
And just for safety purposes, we had to go out to Quail Hollow. I got a call while the pavers were out there and Rotomill was out there. There was a hornet's nest in a tree. And the homeowner knew it, but he wasn't going to touch it, and he told Rotomill. And Rotomill told me the week prior they were widening a road and they hit these nests. And their equipment is open. They got lit up. They disturbed 2 bees nests along the roadway. They got lit up. There's another prime candidate for why to have an enclosed tractor.
I'm Ralph Buckles, and having run equipment through crews for 30 years, my question is that enclosed cab also air conditioned and or heated? At least air conditioned.
It's climate controlled, yeah.
Right, so that is a further benefit to the road crew in keeping them safe is they're in a environmentally controlled area that they can handle bees, they can handle other things that the residents leave behind that have vapor, odor, and other smells. So it's a safer operation for our road crew. So.
Okay. Any questions of the roadmaster? Thank you, Chris. Do we need to make any comments? No. Okay.
This will be discussed again in budget.
What's your time?
And basically now as we know, August is when the departments start putting their preliminary draft budget numbers together, so that September and October, to get the ground running the budget.
Okay. Okay. We'll continue with the list of bills.
Okay. You have a list of bills, and they are as follows. You have a total general fund of $134,746.55, and a total state fund of $51,387.64. Questions? I make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Land planning.
Due to the light agenda, I will be covering Mr. I'll lead items today.
Okay, thank you.
The first thing you have is members first. As you know, they are actually at this point at the building permit stage, and they are, as Tony will state, greatly desiring a building permit at this point. And this is one little item that needs to be addressed. And they deliberately stopped the building permit process to address this item. This is not a township-driven stop. But they reviewed their traffic impact fee, and they had a similar facility, and they questioned how their engineer calculated the fee, and whether the township would entertain a recalculation of the fee. We emailed them back that we would, but they had to provide the proper documentation, show us where the error was and how it was calculated, and then submit us a new calculation. They raced through all that over the last couple days, this was the last minute add into the process, but yesterday they submitted stuff, we got the green light from both Vertu and Becker on accepting both the square footage calculation and the associated fee that goes with it. And so what you have before you is an updated motion for what the new impact fee is with the correct numbers. And so the motion is to acknowledge the acceptance of the updated peak PM vehicle trip generation information associated with the transportation impact fee determination for the members first subdivision and land development plan, and the resultant TIF fee of $79,871 to be paid prior to issuance of the building permit, conditioned upon the applicant and the applicant's consultant documenting the amending prior TIF notification on a recorded plan or other mechanism to the satisfaction of the township solicitor. So that is your motion.
I'll make that motion. I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Members
Thank you.
first will have a check in Tony's hands this afternoon.
So,
Good.
just so we're clear, there's nothing else slowing that down.
No, my permits for the fire alarm system and the building property, they're on just waiting.
And to be honest with you, if we were by the books, we would be waiting until we had a new recorded plan. That motion has allowed the township solicitor to work with their attorney to do the after-fact paperwork to catch up. So we are not in any way holding up the building
Good,
permit.
you don't want to hold them up.
Good, good. Again, we're facilitating it to get it done quickly.
Absolutely.
Good.
Doesn't get any better than this.
Nope.
Next one is Ingram powder coating that has been before the board multiple times now, and basically it was a refresh of their prior land development submission that they had done. This is now to just kind of, it's some of the cleanup work with the final plan approval. So the first one is motion to acknowledge the required amount of the financial security to be established in the township for Ingram's powder coating final land development plan in the amount of $51,174.29 per the approved cost opinion prepared by Dean & Sons dated July 19, 2019.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
The second motion is related to them entering into the LERTA program. And the motion is to grant a waiver of the parking and open space requirements of section 19446B for the Ingram powder coating final land development plan due to the applicant entering into the LERTA program.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
And just for the record, one of the main reasons why they moved forward with this plan was because of LERTA.
Yeah.
They stated that.
Okay. Resolution 2019-13.
This is your standard resolution that you have to adopt every 5 years with PennDOT. And this is related to the snow plowing services that we provide with our winter meetings. So it's a routine motion, you adopted it in past years. It is something that I think is kind of important for us to continue to do, given PennDOT's lower priorities of the state roads that are less traveled, and that these would certainly qualify there. Our guys get out there a lot quicker than PennDOT, and that's not a knock on PennDOT, it's not Route 222. So we're able to be a lot more responsive by doing the snow plowing services for them. And so the motion is to adopt resolution 2019-13 for the municipal winter traffic service 5-year agreement as presented. It's resolution 2019-13.
A motion?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Temporary easement agreement for Rose Hill Basin.
I'm going to put Ken on the spot. This is related to our pollution reduction plan. This is for the Rose Hill Basin. And I think maybe it wouldn't hurt for him to just give an overall little update on that while we got him here, on where we stand, since this is one of our pollution reduction plan projects.
Okay, the pollution reduction plan is to retrofit the basin, when those basins were put in back decades ago. They were designed to only cut the flow level of a 100-year storm, and everything else zips right through. Because of the water quality requirements, we're going to be retrofitting it so that it maintains the water longer, sediment falls out, and it improves water quality in addition to just flood control. In order to access the basin, we need to cross 2 individual lots in Rose Hill, and the first one, the one with the basin on it, that was agreed to be signed at the last meeting, and the second one is one we're doing today, and it's just permission to go across their backyard and do the work, and agreement to restore any damage that's done.
And there is an easement, there's a sewer easement that runs along the back of the basin, but that goes through a box turtle habitat and wetlands area. And that was less desirable way to access this work. So it's a lot more desirable to go in from the front than the back and avoid this, even though there was a existing Adamstown sewer easement that we could have utilized. So the motion is to approve the temporary easement agreement for 1 Rosemont Drive.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Old business? MS4.
I'm going to roll right into Mr. McRae again. We are in the process of updating and getting ready with our annual report. There is a meeting with a working group on the 3rd week of August. I can't remember the exact date right now. It's on August 21st, where we're going to be talking about fee or tax for stormwater. And our consultants are going to come prepared to do kind of a SWOT analysis on both approaches. As we talked last fall, just as a little bit of a primer refresher, both the fee or the tax would, other than just making just an increased millage and property tax and no explanation given, you don't have to do anything. But if you actually try and tag it as like a fire service tax, where you try and tag it, you have to go through the same steps as a fee, where you actually have to kind of document it, just like you would do for a fee. The issue with the tax option is it's not been done anywhere. So it has the potential of being legally challenged if we were to designate that millage as like a fire tax millage. Fire tax has gone through the courts, it's accepted process. It's not been done for stormwater. The fee side has its own issues. There are a number of court cases now, even though state law permits municipalities to impose fees. There are a lot of minefields out there as the courts have kind of been interpreting how the state has legislated the fee program. So it's not a slam dunk either setting up a fee program. It's going to require the working group and the manager, and as well as the township in general, the board, to look and weigh the different options and look at what the potential liabilities are. So the tax side is doing something that hasn't been done before, so if we get sued, we'll kind of on our own. But on the fee side, you have a number of lawsuits now that have occurred where people are really scrutinizing how the fee is set up. And if you don't have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit then. So what they're going to have to present the working group and what Mike LaSalle from Maine Studies has been tasked to do is to kind of give us a side-by-side comparison, weigh the pros and cons, and then come back and educate the board. And then there will be further discussion in the budget process. So that's a main part of that meeting. Mr. McRae has been making some great strides, as you know, over the last couple months. We are on track for our first permit reporting cycle, with hitting all the goals that we set in the last permit cycle that we were going to hit for the first year. We have done a lot of our inspections now of the BMPs, and I'll let you go, maybe go a little bit more detail on that end, but we have been making leaps and bounds actually in terms of compliance.
Yeah, we did set the township up into 4 quadrants to be done for each year, so it's a 4-year cycle of inspections. After we've done the initial inspection, we give instructions in a form. In future years, they will file a report for themselves. They'll just report what maintenance is needed on the basin and send pictures and report by the end of August of each year going forward. We've made it through all of the BMP facilities that we were planning on. The last was Pepperidge Farm, who has, I believe, over 80 stormwater inlets that all had to be inspected and photographed. And so that's been done. Acme's probably worse. It's just filling out that section too, which we're now going to need. So we're on track with that stuff right now. I just gave Chris, to his great joy, a listing of the municipal inlets in Area 2, which officially starts July 1st. There were 315 of them in that one section. So fortunately, he has all here.
It'll need it.
He was not thrilled to get the list, of course.
What a day.
And if you remember, since we only had a half year for the first year, the way the quadrants and the way Ken set it up was really smart. The first quadrant is the one that has the least amount of facilities. That was the one we were pretty kind of cutting our teeth on and just make sure that we had the process in place. Even down to the cleaning of the inlets that have been identified, that's a small fraction of all the inlets, and it gives the road crew an opportunity to really gauge how many inlets a day we can really do when we get into the big inspections. So there's a lot, as we're getting into doing things new, we haven't been doing these inlet inspections and these BMP inspections and the things that we have to do. And homeowners most of them have not had an experience yet of actually realizing that they actually have maintenance responsibilities other than trying to keep the thing mowed. So when they all of a sudden realize that the infrastructure inside that facility is also something they got to maintain, or in some cases they can't make changes to, taking off what's called, restrictor plates and stuff like that slow the water leaving the basin because they wanted to de-water quicker because they were afraid of mosquitoes and other things. So they took the plates off so it quickly drained out. But that's not the purpose of a basin. You want it to retain water. So when you get those kind of surprise discussions, it's an educational experience for the person that maintains or owns that basin. So each one of those is doing, I think our approach is correct though, by doing the personal meetings and doing the initial condition assessment with the owners so that they get educated and they learn what they're actually responsible for. And then after that, they can then do the self-reporting from that point on. So there's definitely a lot of hand-holding, and then we got to decide with the next permit cycle whether we do another round of condition inspections and how that's going to be to be determined. But we're off to a good start.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say Chris and his team is here. Thank you guys for stepping up and helping out with the MS4 stuff. I know Ken is giving you a lot of work. It's all Ken's fault. Don't forget that.
It is, we understand that.
He lets me know.
It's not DEP, it's Ken's fault.
If I could, just to interject, talking about MS4, code enforcement, and also this involves our police department. Under the code enforcement, we have property in the township that we've been struggling to meet with the owners for the last 2 years. BB&T Bank, Verizon property, we met with them this past week. Upon arrival there, Ken, myself, and Brent Lee noticed our esteemed police department was already on scene. Evidently, the owner, or owner's representative, which hails from Brooklyn, New York, was in the BB&T Bank trying to take advantage of the air conditioning. But this young man looked a little different than what we, serve people around here, and was pacing around in the bank. Made the ladies in the bank nervous, therefore calling the police department. And he can jump in if you like, Chief.
Yeah, he indicated that he was just in there taking advantage of the air conditioning, and he didn't understand the fact that you probably shouldn't walk into a bank and pace back and forth several times. It kind of makes the people inside nervous. So we had a little discussion outside. He apologized, and then he met with Tony and Brett. And we dealt with it. It took a little bit of convincing, but then he understood what I was talking about.
He appreciated the warm welcome for that. And we continued with our assessment of the property, which again has not been maintained over the last 14 to 16 years.
2000.
But he goes more serious about that stormwater now.
Exactly.
Did you explain we're a little sensitive after your team intercepted the bank robbers?
Yeah, a little bit. We take our banks kind of seriously.
But yeah, it just a little bit of comedy for that day's meetings, that's for sure, but it involved all three departments and try to keep them going straight. Now they understand what they have to do to maintain the property, and we'll use it in the future to get that done.
Purely from a water quality perspective, which is what we're trying to do with MS4, even though it's a very convoluted and poorly prepared state process, we are making some grounds at this point with water quality. I mean, there's dealing with the state asks, and then there's real water quality. And when you see mud going down the road and you can actually do something to fix it, that's real water quality. You don't necessarily get the MS4 credit. So we're trying to be smart and actually address real water quality when opportunities present itself. But that's just part of the process of doing MS4.
Thank you. Fire and EMS request to form a fire department working group.
This is a follow-up, as we stated, MS4 and fire and EMS are two standing items on the business that we talk about in every meeting. At the last meeting, because we had such a long agenda, we abridged our old business discussion, but it was brought up in the meeting during public discussion about a desire for the fire chiefs and the township manager and one supervisor to form a fire working group. We have the EMS, just like we have for MS4, just like we have for pension, so that issues can be brought up, vetted out, and then brought to the board. I think that's a very good idea. As you know, the manager and the three fire chiefs have developed a very good working relationship over the last few years. It'd be a good thing for an interim manager to continue, and I think the working group is a much more structured format of something that's already been occurring, where we've been having regular manager, fire chiefs meetings, and it would be good to just bring a supervisor into the process. So the motion is to approve the creation of a fire department working group to consist of 3 fire chiefs, interim township manager, and blank, a township supervisor. And so that really kind of needs to fill in the blank as to who will be the assigned township supervisor to participate in the working group. But that is the request of both the manager and the 3 fire chiefs at this point.
Why are you looking at me?
We're both looking at you.
I think it's a great idea.
That's what you did too.
It's a great.
I really do.
Considering the importance of it, is it appropriate to have 2 supervisors there, or you can't do that?
No, you're not, for the working group plus, I actually do want the supervisors to actively engage in the discussion. And the moment you put 2 in there, then all you can do is be silent listeners in the discussion at that point. So it's best to have one.
I know Doug's not going to do it. I'll take it.
You do it?
Yeah.
And if you can't make it, I'll fill in with that. I'll back up.
So then the motion is as read with Mr. Carrasco as the supervisor.
Yes. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr.
Thanks.
Chair, real quick, in reference to the fire departments, I've been in contact with Chief Weaver in reference to the technology, the jetpacks. I met with the Verizon representative that covers not only the police department, but the township in reference to our cell service. He's going to switch us to a different plan. It'll be an unlimited minutes, unlimited data plan. We were under a shared plan from everything. We never went over those minutes. That is going to save approximately $150 a month. We went through a number of the jetpacks, which is how the police department gets the internet in the car, how the fire department gets the internet through into the trucks for their computers, or so on and so forth. A discussion was brought up about possibly switching to iPads. They're easily removable from the fire trucks, and they can take pictures, they can do what they need to do. It's a work in progress. I think we will be able to save some money. There may be some upfront costs in reference to the iPad, which I think the working group could probably discuss in reference to purchasing. I think, unfortunately, the deal for some of the iPads is it expires August 31st, which is $150 off each iPad. So I don't know if we would make an initial purchase and change around the jetpacks to just the iPads having the internet connection. I'm still looking into it. Probably have more information next week. We probably have the information done by the August 15th meeting for some preliminary numbers and that kind of thing.
Can you guys work to do that? Can you get that information?
I already have all the information of what they have now. Again, I think there was a request potentially within the fire departments for 12 or 13 iPads. That'll carry like a $5,000–6,000 bill with it.
Right.
And I don't know that that's something that we want to do going into budget season without it being budgeted and that type of thing.
Well, let's take a look at the data. Let's pull that together, take a look at the data, see what the costs are and compare it to the savings, right? And I think the other thing too is going with the iPad setup now, you're moving into the 21st century.
Yes, and we would never do that. I wish we could do it in
Don't say it.
the patrol cars, but we have switched to the ruggedized tablets in there. They're called G-Tech tablets. Again, if you're getting an iPad, which I think would work well for the fire departments, you also have to consider the costs of the cases, the mounts, that kind of thing. So I think that would be more on the fire department side to bring those costs for those other items, because I don't know that if you want to buy them from Verizon, there may be a cheaper resource out there. But I should be able to pull the numbers for the iPads, the jetpacks, which ones we're turning off, and move forward on that, and hopefully save a little bit of money.
Ralph?
Yeah, Ralph Buckles here in the township. When, like Mr. Carrasco was saying, is when you do your presentation, will you also, between both police and EMS, show the trade-off with either turning off or turning down some of the data plans? So there's a plus for the equipment and a minus for the data, and then that'll
Absolutely.
bridge the gap. Some or all, I don't know.
And the other thing that we did with Verizon is we now have all of the phones from the police department converted to a system where if there's an emergency declared, we have priority. It's not through AT&T. I know they have a big system going out, but Verizon, it works very well for us. And those numbers are now transferred through the Department of Homeland Security. So if the phone lines are tied up and one of our phones needs to make a call or receive a call, somebody will get hung up on the other end and we'll get that priority. So that should be approved tomorrow.
And that's something we need to look at with the fire companies too. It was called AT&T's FirstNet, I think is what they call it.
That's what AT&T called it.
And then that's actually a federal program. They got a federal grant that's helping fund theirs. Verizon, being a competitor, is doing theirs fairly private. And we have an issue with AT&T service in the township, so Verizon service.
We did the Verizon versus the other.
But it would be good for that would apply for police, that would apply for fire companies, that would apply for EMS, and that would apply for road crew. All those cell phones could be all on this network where they get priority set of a cell tower. When you have an incident, sometimes a cell tower gets overloaded. I won't give you guys know what incidents are. I will if you have a tape suggest what incidents could be. But when the cell towers get overloaded, when everybody's trying to use the cells at the exact same time because of a major incident occurring, that basically using the 911, 911 lessons will give the emergency services priority, and even means other people have dropped calls.
And I also learned from the Verizon rep that each Verizon tower has a generator that is there and has enough capability, I believe he said it's for 7 days to run off of that generator. So we're secure in reference to our communication, that's definitely.
So the manager with me not being here next week, I would definitely recommend that there still be a conversation between, at least with Chief Weaver, since he's kind of taking lead with the families, and with our police chief to kind of keep that ball rolling.
Absolutely.
So there could possibly be some action to this meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Acknowledge receipt from gambling commission for video gaming terminal ballot.
Yeah, this is on old business, and this is just to acknowledge that we did get official acknowledgement from the Game Control Commission that our opt-out has been received, and we're now on the opt-out list at this point. So there's no action to be taken, but just that loop has been closed at this point.
Thank you.
Scott, what does that mean for the current businesses that have the video machine?
They're not legal, so we'll just leave it at that.
And we do have some.
Yeah, they're basically what this legislation for is purely for what you would call a truck stop. And that's a little variable as to what is a true truck stop. But that is what that legislation was for. Lancaster County was given the option of Lancaster County municipalities and only Lancaster County municipalities in the state of opting out where it doesn't become an automatic by right, doesn't require municipal approval. So the opt-out place, if somebody were to come in and would want to upgrade a facility, make it a truck stop, by the definition of that legislation, which is not what you would picture a truck stop with 200 stops. A truck stop could be 20 parking stalls. So they would now have to come to the township and request us to lift that requirement of an opt-out. So it puts township approval back in the process instead of it just being an automatic.
Case by case basis.
Case by case analysis.
Approval.
Okay, Stony Point Park Community Bill 731 meeting update.
Since I'm not doing a manager's report, I did want to throw this under an old business just to kind of have an update. Stony Point in June did formally form their nonprofit group. They got nonprofit status from the state. They're now the Stony Point Board, Stony Point Park Community Build Association. With that, in the June meeting, they elected their board of directors. So there's a president, a vice president, a treasurer, a secretary, and a member at large. That represents the core group. The bylaws were also adopted in June for that nonprofit association. And basically, to be a member of the association, the bar is very low at this point. I was joking that all you need is a pulse and you have an address somewhere within 100 miles of the township and you get qualified to be in the association. What is really is it gives the ability for them to kick people out that do something that's illegal or unethical. Otherwise, by default, everybody that is in the community or supporting a project is a member of the association. So we have one company, West Pharmaceutical. I think they're out of the Montgomery County area that might be a major donor to the project for the rubberized surface, and technically they're an association member. So they do have the means of getting rid of somebody that does something that's illegal or unethical or violates the bylaws of the association, but everybody else is a member. So everybody in this room technically is a member of the association if they participated in the park. We had a meeting last night. We're trying to build and fill our three most critical committees that need to be for this right now. The first committee is a public relations committee, the second committee is a fundraising committee, the third committee is a volunteer recruiting committee. We have some pretty good legs under us for the public relations and fundraising Right now, those two are going to be run by